So for some reason, I was in that mood where I just wanted to watch those really long videos, YouTube videos. And so of course I watched Audrey Graven's video, like her 4 hour long video of her talking about Hickstrid, which was freaking beautiful, and I advise you to watch if you haven't already. Not only that, but I also watched this other girl, I forgot her name. Her name would be here. I also watched her rank every single Barbie movie. Her video was only like a half hour long, but it was pretty entertaining. And for some reason, I don't have the capacity to rank anything that much or that long, or talk about anything that much and that long. So I decided to do something that isn't going to be as strenuous, but it might be enjoyable. I'm going to be ranking every single thing from the How to Train Your Dragon franchise. But just before anyone says anything, the one thing that I'm not going to be including, just because I physically couldn't get it, was those comics that took place in between, I think it was Riders of Berk time or something. There was 10 graphic novels that took place around that time. And that's the one thing that I couldn't get, because I swear to God, they exist nowhere. I could not find anything from this. I don't know why it was so hard, but I couldn't find anything. But I have the other two graphic novels in here. So yes, I'm going to be including all the TV shows, all the movies, all the graphic novels, and all the shorts. Let's get going. Get ready. So we're going to start with last place, which may not be a shock to you, or it may be a very big shock to some of you, but Dragons: The Nine Realms. I just wanted to get this one out of the way first thing, because this is the only thing on this list that takes place in a different, not universe, but you know what I mean, with different characters and modern time. This is the only thing on this list that does. Actually, stand corrected, but I'll get to that in a second. You guys know my opinions. I'm posting videos of me watching this show, and you guys can just tell I'm not a fan of this show, mainly because yes, I am comparing this show to the original, because of course Race to the Edge was everything. So of course my instinct is to compare it to that show, even though I know it's not that show. I shouldn't compare it to that show, but because it's technically part of the How to Train Your Dragon franchise, it's my only instinct to compare it to that show. So as you guys can tell, I'm not a fan of the writing in Dragons: The Nine Realms. I think the writing is not as strong. The characters aren't that strong. I feel like they're generally kind of running out of ideas on how to make the dragon content interesting, because whenever there's a situation going on in that show, it's generally not interesting at all, because I feel like they generally gave all their interesting ideas to Race to the Edge. So Dragons: The Nine Realms was well, there's nothing else we could do. Let's just wing this thing. And of course the animation is much more low budget, but I'm not nitpicky when it comes to the animation, because again, it's a show, it's a Hulu and Peacock show. So I do know it's not as high budget as a Netflix show or an Amazon Prime show or anything like that. So yeah, last place. So next up, which might be kind of weird that I put this a little bit higher, but Rescue Riders. So this one probably won't really make that much sense, because I obviously haven't really watched Rescue Riders, mainly because it is for children. And I mean preschool children, not just what How to Train Your Dragon franchise is for, but I mean pre-K children. And of course I haven't watched the show, because, if I watch the show and actually enjoy it as a 20-year-old, then there's a problem. But of course I haven't read the show. I've seen some things from the show. I've seen clips from the show, people talking about the show. And a reason that it isn't in last place is mainly because it is for children, like preschoolers. So I can't really be that much nitpicky, because of course when I watch it, it's gonna be dumb. Everything, when I watch Dora the Explorer now, of course it's dumb, because I'm older. If I watch it as a preschooler, it's not dumb. So I couldn't really nitpick this show, because again, it's for preschoolers, so of course it's gonna be pretty dumb. But another reason it's not last place is also because it's supposed to not take place in the Hydrogen Dragon universe, even though it's technically part of their brand, like part of the franchise, but not from the same universe. Because I heard the dragons talk.
But we can't let Lurk know what we're up to. Cutter, can you keep him distracted?
You kidding? I'm about to change the rules of this game.
So, yeah. So, yeah. So sad I put this higher than Dragons in Nine Realms. I'm so sorry. So, the next one up is the Book of Dragons. So, I mean, of course this one is pretty low, mainly because it's a short, but it's like the shortest of the shorts. Like, this short is like 5 minutes long. You could watch it on Netflix if you want. But yeah, so basically the premise of the short film is like, I'm still debating whether this is actually canon or not, because I feel like everything from the universe is canon, except for this, mainly because they talk to the camera, like they're breaking the fourth wall. Like, they're talking to the camera, and they're acknowledging us. And this one is more, like, their main demographic was for kids for this short film, because it was like them teaching a lesson about dragons, even though dragons don't exist, so kind of like false propaganda. But they were talking about dragons, talking about different species and everything, and it kind of opens up to like a little different animation scheme. So of course it wasn't that entertaining, nothing crazy about it. It was just kind of like whatever. Like, it is what it is, you know? So in 11th place is Dawn of the Dragon Racers. So I generally haven't seen this until kind of recent, because I didn't know what it was a thing. Because when I seen people post like pictures from this short film, I thought it was from Race to the Edge, because this is the first time we actually see the Race to the Edge designs in the short film. But basically the whole thing is basically just, we see their new like Race to the Edge designs, and they're basically telling us a flashback of when they were in Riders of Berk, or Defenders of Berk, whatever the heck it's called. But, you know, it wasn't that entertaining. It was more entertaining than the Book of Dragons, mainly because it actually has a story and a plot. But again, it was just kind of like a competition thing. They're just brainstorming a flashback. It was mainly just to kind of introduce us to like the new show that was to come, which was Race to the Edge. So it was more of like an intro thing. So nothing too crazy. This one's fine, but I never watched it more than once. So this one might surprise a lot of you, or it might not, because I kind of made a video on this before. But Hydrogen Dragon Homecoming is next up. So yeah, this one is pretty low, because I did talk about how this one is probably one of my, I feel like at this point, in my opinion, is when I thought that Hydrogen Dragon kind of jumped the shark. Because I never thought it really did that much. Generally, like, to be honest, I really didn't think it did. Like, I thought all the movies were great, all the shows were great. Most of the shorts were great, up until this short. That's when I was like, okay, just stop. Just stop. You said the franchise was going to end at the third movie. Why did you have to add this short at the end? It was kind of pointless. The one good thing is that we do get to see what happens to them after the dragons leave, which I do feel like that's kind of interesting. We get to see Toothless with the Light Fury and the Nightlight, which they were, of course, very adorable. We got to see Hickster being an old married couple. I made this joke in my Hydrogen Dragon Homecoming review, but I swear to God, bro, that's freaking Jake Gyllenhaal and Amanda Seyfried, I swear to God. But again, I kind of feel like it also just kind of made the epilogue, because I heard this was supposed to take place in between like the ending of Hydrogen Dragon 3 and before like the epilogue where they fly with their children. It's supposed to take place in between that time, which I do think it makes it better though, because I originally thought that this was supposed to take place after the epilogue, and that would have been kind of weird. I would have been like, that's like, then what's the point of the epilogue then if we just have another short afterwards? I just thought that would be really weird. But I'm kind of glad that it wasn't that way. It kind of took place before. So technically the epilogue was like the last thing that we see of the original people and dragons. So yeah, I feel like that definitely makes it better. But again, it was unnecessary. Like, I feel like the plot was weak. The writing wasn't the best. I mean, it was just, it was meh at best. Like, honestly, could have been better generally. So, next up is Legends of the Bone Napper, which of course is another short. I'm freaking on a roll with these shorts apparently. So, this one I did see when it came out, I think, but I generally did not remember whatsoever, so I had to rewatch it. This is also on Netflix if you want to check it out. But this one is I'm sorry for laughing, but the premise of it is just so weird. Basically, the gang go on a fishing boat trip with Gobbert to kind of find this new bone legend dragon that apparently Gobbert believed in all his life. He kind of tells a flashback about what happened with him, and I don't know why, but for some reason, like in these shorts, whenever they show a flashback, it's like a different sort of animation. They probably just do that just to save money. I don't know. That's just a theory, but yeah, they show this really creepy animation of like a flashback of like Gobber with the Bone Legend Dragon. Or the Bone Napper. I don't know why I keep saying Bone Legend. The Bone Napper Dragon. But, again, it was decent. It was basically just kind of like a Writer's Berk episode. Like, I don't know why they need to make it a whole short. Because I think this came out like literally the same time as the first movie came out. So they kind of grouped it together. So I don't know. That's probably the only reason I could think of. But yeah, it honestly was meh at best. Again, it wasn't bad, but again, it was just like a Writer's Berk episode. It wasn't anything spectacular. It was just them going on a little adventure, them trying to save them trying to find the Bone Apple Dragon, almost getting killed by the dragon. I do think that the dragon is kind of cool though. I wish we'd seen more of that dragon later on in the franchise, because I do feel like it's really unique looking, even though it's just made out of bones. But I don't know. I feel like it'd be cool if there's like more of that kind of species. That would have been neat to see. But yeah, this one, eh. So I feel like this one might get a little controversial. Controversial. Okay, so I put Hydrogen Dragon 3. This is really hard because I have so much opinions about Hydrogen Dragon 3, and some of them are good, some of them are bad. So I can make a whole video on this on its own because I have a lot to say about Hydrogen Dragon 3, and I don't really think I've said it like on here at all, because like why would I do that? Like I genuinely don't know how to put this into words. But first thing, let me just say, I wasn't a fan of any of the characters in this movie. I feel like they really screwed lots of the characters up, and that includes like the dragons as well. I feel like Gobber was out of character, Astrid, Hiccup, Toothless even, the twins, Snothout. Like I feel like they generally were out of character, and I can literally like say an example from like every time a character was like being out of character, or I could just say why they were out of character. And you know what? I'm probably gonna do this right now. Okay, if you guys don't want to hear this, skip to this time below so you don't have to hear this rant. So for Hiccup, I feel like Hiccup's probably the most like in character out of all of them, and to be honest, mainly because I feel like he's dealing with a lot of trauma from the second movie after losing his dad and being chief right away. And of course, I feel like he had lots of abandonment issues because he was afraid of losing Toothless, which I 100% understood. I just feel like he lost his like spunk, I guess the word is, in this movie. He was more like, sure, yes, he's always been goofy. That's his character trait. That's who he technically is as a character. But I feel like he kind of like, again, he lost his like badassness. Except for this scene, which is pretty badass. These two scenes, okay? These two scenes. But I don't know how to explain it. I feel like the second movie, it was kind of like supposed to be a shock because we seen him in this new look. He was like, we saw his growth over the years. He was a freaking badass. He was a freaking hunk. And he was like really like, he had a big glow up. I feel like in this movie, they kind of forgot that it was supposed to be a big shock that he changed so much from the first movie. So I think that like, I also feel like it's also sad because he genuinely never wanted to be chief. Like he never wanted to be chief, which has been confirmed. But he kind of had to be chief. He's like forced into it. And that kind of shows a lot in the third movie that he generally does not care that much about his... Okay, I'm going to get lots of hate for saying this, but I generally don't feel like he cares as much about his people than he does for the dragons. Like I feel like he generally cares more for the dragons than himself and the other people in his village, which is the reason why he wanted to go to the hidden world in the first place, because his like last thing he wanted was to get rid of the dragons, mainly for his own sanity. That's why at the end he cared more for Toothless to let him go at the end than to have them with the dragons, if that makes any sense. So him, and just to kind of skim past this, I feel like Astrid was out of character because she was being kind of she's more of a diva than she usually is in this movie. I would just say that. She was much more of a diva, she was more snarky, and I feel like all of them weren't even thinking about freaking Hiccup's trauma. He went through so much in the freaking second movie. It was dark. It was freaking dark in the second movie. And now all of them are like pressuring for Hiccup to like get rid of all the dragons, which is so annoying. Why all of a sudden they don't want the dragons anymore? They're literally like, yeah, it's getting overcrowded here. We have to let the dragons go. I'm like, what? What? And then they get freaking pissed off when he doesn't want to let them go. Like, even Astrid, she was like, what? You don't want to let these freaking dragons go? Are you kidding me? Do it for the village. I don't know. And again, all the other characters are pretty out of character as well. I feel like Gobbo was getting generally annoyed at everyone and everything. Valka wasn't even a character in this movie. They forgot what to do with her. And freaking Ruffnut, man, she freaking was seducing everyone. I don't know what her deal. They turned her up a few notches in this movie. I don't know what was her deal.
I know what you're thinking. You've never had a prisoner this hot.
Ruffnut, focus. Were you followed?
I never look back, Hiccup.
And Toughnut, I guess, was pretty in character. He was kind of, his main role was to be Hiccup's wingman the entire time. And Snothout, I don't know, he was just there. He had no really character arc either, but he was more of a bitch in this movie than usual. So that's all I'll say about that.
Died and made you chief. What?
And of course, I feel like generally this whole movie, last thing I'll say about it, then we'll move on. But I generally feel like this whole movie was just leading up to the end. It was just leading up to the end. That's all I'll say about that. I mean, generally, it was just leading up to the end. And it's like sad. It's really sad. Because like I feel like the plot line was just really weak. Grimble was really weak as a character and a villain. He had no strong motive like Draco did in the second movie. It was really like, it could have been like planned better, I guess. But the best thing about this movie though was the animation. I'll say that. The animation was freaking amazing in this movie. It was freaking breathtaking. Like, it was honestly so cool. I very much appreciate the animation in this movie. So without no further ado, I think my rant for now is over. Let's get on to the next one. So this one might be one that a lot of you don't really know about or haven't seen really, but it's Grapevine.
Hello, this is me from the future. I just want to let you know that I keep accidentally saying Grapevine when the actual name of the comic is Dragonvine. So, I'm sorry, please ignore that. Have a nice day.
Which is one of the Hydra Dragon novels that came out after the second movie but before the third movie. So there was originally supposed to be 3 graphic novels that took place in that time frame, but one of them wasn't able to be published, which that one was called Fire Tides, and that one couldn't be published for some reason. And I really wish it could have been, because it definitely would have been on this list. So of course I couldn't put that on the list because it hasn't been released. But I really wish. If you guys want to support it, go to Twitter and do hashtag release the Fire Tides. Let's make it happen. But besides that, this is one of the graphic novels called Grapevine. And this one I generally don't know as much as the other graphic novel. I've read it a few times. My one big thing that I didn't like about this graphic novel is mainly the illustration. I wasn't a fan of like the illustration for this novel. It was way different than the other graphic novel, which had freaking amazing illustration. This illustration definitely wasn't the best in my opinion. But honestly, the storyline was pretty solid. It was pretty solid. We got to meet some new characters, got to see some old characters. There was actually some drama. We got to see lots of Eret, which I like Eret. So honestly, it was a solid novel. Like like I feel like it honestly would have been pretty cool to see this as like a short film or something. I mean, it was good as a graphic novel on its own, but as a short film, I generally feel like it would be really popular, and I feel like lots of people would like it. Or even its own movie. I mean, if they elaborated more, it could be its own movie, which would be really neat. So yeah, Grapevine. I recommend you guys check it out. It's on Amazon. So, next up is Gift of the Night Fury. I love Gift of the Night Fury, I'll just say that. I love Gift of the Night Fury. It's really cute, it's really wholesome. It's actually one of my Christmas classics I watch every year. I usually watch it with my best friend whenever we have kind of like a Christmas sleepover, which we usually do. And it's really exciting. She's like the only one who would watch it with me. None of my family members want to watch it with me. It's kind of sad. My sister doesn't care. My parents haven't seen it. They don't know anything about it. It's not a classic to them, but it's a classic to me. I've seen it when it first came out, and it's honestly pretty amazing. I love it. And of course, it's just basically just a Christmas short film, of course. It's a Christmas short film, but except for them, they celebrate something called Snoggle which is their version of Christmas. And it's cute. It's all about how the dragons leave to go hibernate and they had babies. But they didn't know that they went missing. They went missing, but they don't know exactly why. So eventually they find out that just for hibernation and just for nesting, but Toothless actually goes missing for longer than the other dragons go. And Hiccup honestly thought that maybe Toothless had left without him because now he could finally fly because of a tail that he made for him that will allow him to fly by himself. One thing that's kind of cool, like how they mentioned this, like in How to Dragon 3, which I find kind of funny. Like they actually mentioned like something that happened in a small short film, and they mentioned it in like a movie. I don't know why that's kind of cool to me. That's almost like them mentioning like Dagger and Heather or something in How to Dragon 3. That would have been really cool if they did that. But that's so funny. That's obviously so cool. But yeah, I find it really cool how they actually mentioned that in Hatch and Good 3. Because a lot of people probably missed that, to be honest. I think I missed that first, even though I've seen Gifted the Night Fury so many times. But again, it's cute, it's fun, it's really wholesome, it's really like a comfort short film. I recommend watching it. I recommend watching it this upcoming holiday in like 8 months. So next up is Where We Started It All. Ladies and gentlemen, How to Dragon 1. So, of course, this one has to be close towards the end because this one is generally just so nostalgic. It's nostalgic, and it's honestly the funniest out of all of them, in my opinion. It's really funny. It's definitely a comfort movie. The freaking music is amazing in this movie. I freaking listened to it on Spotify. It's freaking such a great composer, such a great symphony. I love it. It's also it's really nice music. And some of the best, most aesthetically pleasing scenes, especially in the 2010s, like the romantic fight scene, the forbidden friendship scene. Like those scenes are generally like top tier. They're top tier animation scenes ever. Especially the forbidden friendship scene because that scene you saw so much like love, care, and emotion between two characters literally without even having to say anything. Just beautiful music played over their interaction, which I feel like that's very wholesome, and I very much enjoy watching it. Yeah, I remember watching it for the first time, and I was freaking blown away, especially when I found out that Hiccup lost his leg. I remember when I first saw that, I was like, this is the kid's movie, he lost his leg? Like, I was shook. I was genuinely shook. It was honestly a fun experience. But again, I was only like maybe like 8 years old, I think, when I first saw that movie. But it honestly it was great. I really enjoyed it. And honestly, still to this day, because this is the only movie that my sister have seen, and it's the only one that she like plans on seeing. Well, she's seen the third one like once, but she remembers nothing about it. But yeah, she's seen the first one, and that's one that she likes the best. So sometimes we watch that one together, which is fun, and I do enjoy watching it because of course it's just so nostalgic. I just wish we got to see more of the characters in this film, like besides Hiccup and Astrid. I wish you got to see more of the other characters, but again, beggars can't be choosers. I enjoyed it nonetheless. We're nearing close to the end. In fourth place is Riders of Berk and Defenders of Berk. So I'll be completely honest, I didn't see this show when it first came out because I genuinely didn't. I genuinely didn't even know it was a show when it first came out because I remember. So I remember seeing Hydra Dragon when it first came out in theaters, and I remember liking it. But after a while, I just kind of forgot about it. I forgot that it was a movie. I forgot how great it was. But then I remember, I think 2 years later, I believe, my sister and I were in a motel room, and then I remember my sister turning on the TV, and then Hydra Dragon was on. And of course, this was before the other two films, so this is the only one that will ever come on. And then I genuinely forgot all about it, so we decided to watch it, and I was like, oh my god, this movie's so good. How did I forget about this movie? Oh my god, what the heck? So that kind of got me back into the Hydra Dragon phase. That's when I was really a big fan of it. I kind of started to looked at more stuff about it, and I think at that point is when I found out there is a show for it. But again, at that point I still didn't watch it, mainly because it came on Cartoon Network, and I have never ever clicked on Cartoon Network. I haven't seen anything from that channel whatsoever. If that show was on Nickelodeon, then I damn right would have watched that show. I would have watched the freaking entirety of that show because I didn't know this till recently, but do you guys ever have that thing when you just wake up in the middle of the night, for some reason? It's when you're a kid and the TV's on, and then you fall asleep when the TV is still on. You just fall asleep, but then you wake up in the middle of the night for some reason. And it's dark. It's kind of a little scary. It's 3 a.m. You wake up and then you look at the TV that's still on, and then you see something you don't recognize, obviously, because your show's ended. It's a different show that you don't know. It's one of those middle of the night kind of creepy shows. So I remember one time when I was watching something, I guess it was Cartoon Network. It's weird. I guess maybe I don't know, something happened. Maybe my dad put it on or something, and Cartoon Network was on, but I don't think I didn't click on it or watched it. Maybe there was a movie or something like that I was watching. I don't know. So, but I haven't seen any shows from Cartoon Network basically, besides this one. But basically, it was before all of that. I somehow Cartoon Network was on, and then I was laying in my bed, and then all of a sudden I woke up in the middle of the night, and then I saw the TV screen just randomly. I was half asleep. I just saw the TV screen, and then I didn't know what this was, of course. I didn't know it was Race to the Edge first, but I remember I woke up, and then I just saw it kind of freaked me out because it was, now I know what it was, but at the time I didn't know what it was. But I remember seeing, it was the episode where Astrid gets, shocked by, that shockwave dragon, and then she kind of freezes, and then, Hiccup has to, launch on her to get her away, and then he drags her body back on the dragon. I woke up to that, and of course, I didn't know what it was. I had no clue who the characters were. I couldn't recognize it. I was too sleepy. I was too tired. I really genuinely did not know what was happening. I did not know what was happening. But I remember that generally gave me nightmares for some reason. Because I was young, and I randomly woke up to that. And I thought that was just, so creepy, because the animation is really creepy in that scene. I don't know, the way that he, dragged her lifeless body back on Toothless was really creepy. So I think that turned me off to the show for a long time, even though for the longest time I didn't know it was that show. So I didn't go on Cartoon Network specifically for that reason, for some reason, just because it freaked me out so much when I was little. But then years later, I realized it was Race to the Edge. Not Race to the Edge. I realized it was Defenders of Berk. So I was okay, cool. So then I decided to check it out. So I didn't watch the entirety of Riders and Defenders of Berk until recently, honestly. In the last few years, I think I watched the whole thing. And honestly, it was much better than I anticipated, especially because I'm older, so I thought it was one of those things you kind of had to grow up on. But honestly, it still slapped. It was pretty good as I got older. Because, as you guys know, I obviously watched Race to the Edge, and Race to the Edge was Gotta love Race to the Edge. But what's so funny about Race to the Edge is that I remember the character Dagger, but like I didn't see Defenders of Berk and Defenders of Berk or Riders of Berk when I saw Race to the Edge for the first time. So I genuinely did not know who this character was. Like I was like, who the heck is this character? Like what the heck? I had no clue who he is, but I kind of just like eventually caught on to who he kind of was as the show kind of went on. But I didn't know till recently that he was actually part of Riders and Defenders Berk. I was like, what? So of course watching it back, I was like, that's his origin. That's where he came from. What the heck? So yeah, I feel like the drama was honestly really good. I feel like Dagger was generally a really good villain, and I feel like he's really one of those villains that is very capable of a redemption arc. There's some villains that definitely should not be redeemed, but him, I feel like definitely, because you could just tell that he wanted to be friends with Hiccup so badly throughout the show that he was on. Basically, he wanted to be friends with him so badly, but then when he found out that Hiccup kind of betrayed him, you could see like the hurt in his eyes. Like he genuinely felt betrayed. And of course, every person who's hurt becomes a villain. That's just how it is. That's how it is and how it always will be. And that also what makes a great villain. So number 3 might also be something that's kind of odd to a lot of people. But I'm gonna put Serpent's Hair, which is the first of the 3 unreleased graphic novels that took place between 2 and 3. So this might be surprising that this was actually so far up on the list, but it's really good. Like, I felt like the story was so compelling, the characters are really on point, like, the conflict is really good, like, the idea of it in general, I feel like the illustration was really awesome. I don't know, I just thought it was, like, really entertaining. I thought it was really entertaining to read. I thought it was a perfect length. I thought it was also just really clever. I just really enjoyed it. I think this is another one that would be like so popular if it was a done movie. Like it would have been so popular. It would have been freaking, I don't know. I feel like this is generally underrated. So you should definitely read this graphic novel because again, it should freaking put you in that mood. Like this is classic Hatching Dragon like ideas. Like it's honestly just like top tier stuff. Honestly. So in second place is Hatching Dragon 2. It's so weird how all the movies are just kind of scattered across this list. So as you guys can tell, Hatching Dragon 2 is probably my favorite Hatching Dragon movie. It was kind of hard to like decipher if this was my favorite one because I like all of them in like different ways. I know it sounds weird to say that I like the third one after everything I said about the third one. And I do like it. It's not like I just, it's my least favorite of the franchise, but like I don't hate it. Like I've seen it a few times now and I still consider it to be pretty good, and I think it does deserve some rewards that it did not win. And again, I thought it was really good for an animated movie because lots of animation movies now are just not good. They're just really not good. But I think Hatching Dragon 2 is just like a whole new level of good, mainly because again, it's a time jump between the first and the second. I thought the teaser trailer really like grabbed me when I first saw it because I was like, what the heck happened to Hiccup? He's a freaking hunk now. What happened? But in a good way. I was like, but I also liked how you really get to see the improvement between the first and the second film. How everyone's doing, how Hiccup is older, how Astrid's hotter. How everyone else is just freaking vibing out. And of course what makes it even better is how much more darker this one is and how the theme of the second one is basically all about just growing up and maturing, because how Hiccup did not want to be chief, he did not want all of that. He wanted to continue his life as a kid basically, even though he was 20 at this point. But then of course once his father died, it kind of snapped him out of reality and he realized that he needs to be an adult now. And I also felt it was just much more darker than the first one, but in all the best ways. Like all the best ways. Like it honestly was just so compelling. The storylines are great. Of course the animation is always amazing for Hatching Dragon. Like it's always just top tier animation. Like nothing has beat it. Like honestly, even the first movie was like top tier animation. It's crazy. It's honestly really good. And of course, I very much enjoyed like the subtle cute side plot between Hiccup and his mom. I thought that was really cute because how like the other side plot was more like endearing, more like mysterious, more dark, and then they had another side plot was all fluff and cuteness and Hiccup bonding with the mom, which I like because it wasn't rushed. Like I was scared that if they bring in like a new huge character, it would just be completely rushed and everything. But they like made it pretty. They did a pretty good job writing that whole side plot basically. But then I like how at the end they kind of all like both storylines kind of combined with one another, and then everything kind of took the turn for the worst. How of course the dad dies the second the mom is there. Like, are you kidding me? So of course he dies, and then that kind of motivated them to like work harder to take down this dude, which I thought was really compelling and neat. And I honestly really loved like the twist. It's not really a twist, but I kind of like how they made Toothless be the one to kill Stoic because I thought that again it was really dark, but I liked it. It was more clever than just being like Drago, just kind of like it was more clever. It was more thought out. It made him more like creepy and mysterious, and I don't know. I just enjoyed the second movie a lot. Yeah, I remember watching this with my dad in the theater, and it was a lot. I remember my dad cried, and he'd never seen the first movie, so that's something. So, you guys probably know what the first one on this list is. Take a guess.
This changes everything.
That's right, Race to the Edge. I love Race to the Edge. I love it. I feel like it's definitely an underrated movie, definitely an underrated show. I feel like it definitely is underrated because it's on Netflix, so I feel like lots of people don't know about it. It's not like something you could just turn on like SpongeBob or anything. It's more of an underrated show that most people don't even know that it is a show. Like most of my friends haven't seen it or heard from it. But honestly, it's crazy for like an animated show that's based off of a movie, how amazing quality it is, how good writing it is, how good the character development is. Like it's freaking insane. Dragons and Nine Realms, take notes. Like what? It's honestly pretty crazy. Even as a kid, I was like, whoa. And now as an adult, I'm like, whoa. And this is the first time we ever seen the evolution of Hickstrid. This is when we get to see them together, and we get to see casual Hickstrid. We get to see them falling in love, which I thought was written so good for a kid show. Like Disney, why aren't you doing this? This is why DreamWorks couples are it. They're it. Like it's crazy to me. It's crazy how well I feel like there's a thing which lots of people, I don't know if they know what this is, but I feel like there's definitely a thing called main character syndrome. Let me explain. Main character syndrome is of course when someone is a main character, they get treated not only better, but I feel like the characters definitely like love them more. The characters like care for them more. And the best example of this is Harry Potter. Like I've recently rewatched all the Harry Potter movies, and that's a huge thing because ever since the first time they see each other, everyone was freaking fawning over Harry Potter because he was freaking it. He was amazing. And there was even a time in one of the movies where Ron was even like, haha, yeah, I'm the stupid one. Yeah, I'm just stupid Harry Potter's friend. I'm like, yeah. They even made a joke about this when they were playing that Quidditch game. And then all of a sudden, how Draco and Harry got freaking almost killed or something. Well, Draco almost got killed, but then no one cared about him. Everyone was covering Harry because he's the main character. That's why people always say, like, that person thinks they're the main character. 'Cause that is a thing. It generally is a thing. It's so funny. Like, it's honestly so funny. It's really funny to me. But I feel like Race to the Edge did not have that. I feel like, yes, They relied on Hiccup, but for lots of reasons other than he's the main character. They also relied on him because he was the smartest. He was the leader. He came up with all the ideas. He was strong mentally. He knew what he was doing. So of course they rely on him, which makes sense. But they also rely on all the other characters for different situations. And not only that, but if a character is hurt, then they care for that character. It's not all about the main character. Like when Asher got hurt twice in the show, and while all the other characters almost die all the time. It's actually treated like a serious thing, which I enjoy. And of course it has some of the best villains in the show. Literally the whole entire franchise. It had Beagle Grimborn, Biker Grimborn, freaking Johan, I guess. I don't know. And of course they have the redemption. They had the redemption of Dagger, which I guess is one of the best redemptions ever. It's so cute, and I freaking love Dagger. I love that he came back. I love that he's an ally now, and I was always rooting for him to be an ally. He was a great villain, but an even better ally. He's honestly great. So I thought that redemption arc was really well written too. It wasn't just oh, he's redeemed. It was actually clever, and they picked the right person to redeem. And I feel like I feel like Vigo is definitely one of the best villains honestly in the entire franchise, because not only is he incredibly smart, but he's similar to Grimmel in a way, where he's actually uses his brains over brawn sort of thing. Yes, he is strong, but he uses it to outsmart Hiccup. He outsmart that dude, and no one has been able to do that before. He literally made Hiccup almost pull his freaking hair out in frustration because he didn't know how to beat this dude. He is smart. And he's also kind of sexy, but that's also just a side thing. And again, it's just a really clever idea for a show. The whole plot's the whole ending is really clever. The action scenes are really smart. Even the scenes where nothing really goes on, even that's really fun. I feel it generally is really funny for I don't know, is this supposed to be a comedy? I don't think it's supposed to be a comedy really, but it's funny nonetheless. I feel all the characters are best in this time. I feel all the characters, we really got to see who they are as characters, and we could see their character traits the best in this show. Snotha, we get to see him redeem. We get to see his insecurities from his mind.
Whatever greatness I end up doing, and trust me, it will be great. It's gotta be what I want to do, not what my dad wants me to do. You know, we may not be so different after all.
The twins, we get to see them kind of being left out of sometimes. We get to see their agitation through lots of the plots of the show.
Allow me to lay it out for you, my flaxen-haired friend. You have no respect for the people around you who are just trying to help and be a part of the team. You have no respect for Fishlegs, certainly none for Snotlout, and you couldn't have less respect for the two of us. Now you can go ahead and shame the others. You can mock this entire island of dragons if you wish, but I am not gonna stand here and listen to you insult the entire Nut family tree!
I respect you guys.
Oh, please. You could barely even say it.
And of course we get to see all the other characters have their moments. We get to see Heather and Astrid kind of bond, kind of have girl talk. I just thought it was really a clever show, and I really enjoy it. And it also makes me sad that the show is over, because I used to be so excited when there was a new season released. I would be like, oh my god, a new season's coming out. I would have been so excited. But it is what it is, It's fine. Well, I hope I didn't forget anything, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's longer than usual, probably, but I just had a lot to say. I just want to get everything off my chest, and also give me a pat on the back, because this is the first time I had no script. I had no script for this, so this is everything that just came from my head. The only thing that I was looking at was the actual list. The actual list. So, I hope you guys enjoy this. Hope you guys leave in the comments what your favorite or least favorite parts of the franchise was. I'll be excited to see you guys' answers. Well, see you guys next time.